I'm a retired musical theater teacher. I am the mother of 4, grandmother of 12, and great-grandmother of 3. My name is Connie, and I'm a miraculous mama of Elizabeth Joy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Miraculous Mamas. My name is Elizabeth Joy, and I am the host of this podcast where we believe in empowering women through education and storytelling. And that was my mom on the intro because she is here in town with me and we are hanging out. So what's up, Mom?
Not much. Shopping, went to your marathon.
Yeah. Had a lot of fun.
Yes, for sure.
It's awesome. She's been doing laundry and the dishes all week. So I'm like,
she doesn't want me to go home.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. It's just showing me how I need a maid, I guess.
Your maid's name isn't Connie, though.
No, definitely not. But guys, thanks for joining us today. I have an awesome guest. I have Katie Crosby coming on. She is an occupational therapist, and she talks about body and emotions of kids and inner kids. Her work is absolutely amazing. I was able to go downtown Chicago and interview her, which was great because in-person interviews are always so much fun because you get to really connect with that person and sit down together. And she answers questions from our Facebook group, and she spent a lot of time answering these questions. So the questions that you asked her, she went really into depth and shared her expertise with us. So I'm super excited to bring her on. But before we do, my mom, we were talking about childbirth earlier. And first of all, I feel like if I run a marathon, I can have a kid.
Yes.
But also, we were talking about how when she had her first 2 kids, the guys really weren't in the room. And with the second 2, my dad was. But with the first 2, you were alone. And I can't imagine being alone during that.
Yeah. Well, 1972, dads weren't allowed in the room at all. So, I mean, they could come in and out while you were in labor probably, but they weren't in there for the delivery at all. No.
That is so crazy.
And you couldn't tell what the baby was or anything like that either. You didn't know till you had the baby.
Really?
Mm-hmm. They could guess just by a heartbeat maybe or something, but no, there was no accurate way of knowing.
I could not imagine not having a support team in the room with me.
There also wasn't like sonograms or ultrasounds like that where you could see the baby. Mm-hmm. Actually, with your brother, my first pregnancy, I was so big they thought I was possibly having twins, and so, but there wasn't. They couldn't do a ultrasound or anything, so they actually did an X-ray. I was about 7.5 months along. They did an X-ray, and they said, "Nope, there's only one there, but it's going to be a big baby."
Wow, that's so interesting. Did you ever think, with me, I guess where I'm at in my life, Vito and I are going to start trying to conceive soon. And, did you think I'd be as hesitant as I have been?
No, not at all. I'm very surprised.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I told you before, I think you and your sister Corinne kind of switched places. Mm-hmm. I figured you'd be the one married not too long out of high school and have a family. You would have had a few kids by now. But Corinne, and I figured she'd be the one that would have a business or, be on that pathway or whatever. But, you weren't in any serious relationship. And so you traveled and everything. And the Lord brought somebody into Corinne's life that was perfect for her. And she got married at 21 and has 4 kids. So total opposites.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I honestly thought that right when I got married, that soon after, don't get me wrong, I do have baby fever. Like, I'm excited to be a mom. I think that there's just some fears surrounding some things. And I also have to accept that you're never going to be fully perfect or fully ready. And even with diving into my health stuff that I'm working through, like, you can't wait till every test comes back 100% clear.
No.
Or that you're 100% healthy, because we're always kind of going to be dealing with stuff.
Yeah. You're never going to have 100% on anything, whether it's waiting to get married, waiting to have a baby, to have all your ducks in a row for whatever, because that's just never going to happen. That's not life in general. So,
yeah.
We're all waiting. Francie and I are waiting.
I know. It'll happen for sure. Maybe actually we don't even know that.
That's true.
So we will try for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Unless God takes us down a different path, and we've talked about those options and what we would do, and if we ever come to that bridge as well. So, you will most likely have a grandchild, whether it's biological or adopted into our family. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I haven't really talked since I am doing the podcast solo, and not having a co-host. I really don't talk that much about the journey that I'm on, as far as wanting to have a baby or getting into that place emotionally, physically, and finishing the half marathon was on my bucket list to do before I started. So now it's like, okay, what excuse do you have next?
You have none.
But there's been a lot more that has gone into it. And Vito and I have talked a lot on the Long Haul podcast, more in depth about where we're at with it and our feelings behind it, and how, we're definitely, I'm more ready now than I was even a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And I think a part of that too has been just working through some stuff in my life. One thing for me was I didn't want to bring any bitterness or anger or feelings that I was maybe harboring into that next phase of my life. Right. So going to therapy and working through some heartache that I've had has been big for me to be open, I guess, to that.
Right.
Because I think that that's super important to, at least for me, it was like, okay, I'm still dealing with these emotional triggers, and I don't want to bring that into pregnancy.
Yeah. Right.
Like trying to conceive and then getting pregnant puts so much stress on your body. Like whether it's easy for you or not, like being pregnant is stressful on your body. Your baby is taking so many nutrients from you, and you are fueling another life, and your body is working so hard to keep your baby healthy and you healthy. And, so I just wanted to be mentally healthy.
Right. And that's important.
Yeah. Going into that. Mm-hmm. So now I feel like I finally am getting into a mentally stable, not that I was like unstable, but just being grateful for where I'm at in life and for, I guess, God protecting me and the seasons that life brings you through, and then the growth that you get from going through painful experiences.
Right. And it's important for pregnancy, but it's important just for you, period. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's important. So,
well, it's important for my marriage.
Yes, definitely.
All right, everyone, I'm going to tell you about my perfect protein bar that I love, and you know what it is. It is Perfect Snacks. Have you ever tried Perfect Bar or Perfect Kids? They are amazing. They have this awesome cookie dough-like texture, and their whole lineup is fresh from the fridge, protein snacks. And after you take them out of the fridge, they are good for a week, but it's fresh ingredients, which is also a reason why I love them. But the adult ones, their line of protein bars, they're made with freshly ground nut butter and up to 17 grams of whole food protein and 20 superfoods. That's right, 20 superfoods, all combined to create a cookie dough-like texture that is just as nutritious as it is delicious. And the great thing about them is they have a snack for everyone. They have Perfect Kids, and they are snack bars crafted especially for the kiddos with 8 kid-friendly superfoods. And it's a bar sized just for them with that same amazing texture and taste, and your kids will definitely love it. All of their products are kept refrigerated for optimal texture and taste and stay fresh for up to 1 week. They're perfect to take on the go wherever you need a snack and to help avoid any meltdowns, which is why I carry them to avoid meltdowns for myself, because when I get hangry, it is no bueno. In addition to tasting good, the bars will help you feel good because they're non-GMO, project verified, gluten-free, soy-free, kosher, low GI, and made in the USA. Plus, with delicious flavors like dark chocolate peanut butter and coconut peanut butter, which my mom was just in town and that is her favorite, and almond butter, you won't have to sacrifice taste for health. And right now, Perfect Bar is offering you 15% off your online order. Just go to perf.bar/mamas. Shop their refrigerated snacks at perf.bar/mamas today to get 15% off your order. Make your day a little more perfect at perf.bar/mamas. So I wanted to have my mom come on here and just say hi to you guys. And I honestly didn't even think it would turn into this talk. I don't even know how I got on this big tangent, but I did. I guess maybe just because I don't really share that much about my journey of trying to conceive and what that's looked like for me and where I'm going to be going with that. But I am actually going to be starting to do videos to share with you guys about how I am preparing for trying to conceive, whether it's from some of the testing that I've done to fertility diet to mentally preparing, also creating a non-toxic environment in my home and doing a lot of research into ingredients that can be super harmful for you during pregnancy or even just regularly. So I'm going to be each week sharing videos with you guys on how to fully prepare for trying to conceive, or even if you are pregnant, just extra steps to take, or even if you do have kids, creating a clean home. And I mean, clean, that's not the right word because my house is definitely not super clean, but non-toxic home and stuff like that. So I'll be putting those videos up on Instagram and YouTube to share with you guys soon. Also, if you guys aren't a part of our Facebook group, you definitely want to join. The women there are awesome. Connie can attest to that as well.
They are. They're amazing.
They are.
Very supportive and loving.
Yes. So join our Facebook group at Miraculous Mamas and follow the Instagram where we post information on the guests and different tips and information on pregnancy, always in the stories. But without further ado, I'm going to get Katie Crosby on to answer all of your occupational therapy questions. All right, everyone, I have Katie Crosby here. She's an occupational therapist. I actually found her on Instagram and started stalking her page and was like, oh, she's really cool. She should come on. And then when I let the Facebook group coming on, they were so excited. They knew who she was and had tons of questions for her. So thank you for coming on, Katie.
Liz, thank you so much for having me. Yeah. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And what's super exciting is I don't get to do a lot of interviews in person. So it's nice to actually look at a face, not just on a screen.
Be live. Yeah, me too.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into your field and what you do.
So I'm a pediatric occupational therapist, as you mentioned, and I specialize specifically in emotions, relationships, behaviors, and how all of those drive motor development. So I'm really looking at how interaction patterns with caregivers, how the environment, and how activities throughout the kid's day are really impacting their overall development and social-emotional development and everything that goes with that. So I have been interested in kids as long as I can remember. I was a nanny for countless families in my hometown, probably 30, and had a little business growing up. And I have always been around kids and just really interested in working with them in some way, but never really knew what to do. And I wasn't really interested in being an educator at the time. So I moved to Chicago, got a job in logistics, and then ended up meeting the owner of the clinic that I've worked for and became really interested in the specific model of OT. So it looks quite a bit different from probably standard OT, and I'm excited to be here.
As far as, occupational therapy goes, at what point would somebody come to you?
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different ways that people may be referred. One is we'll talk about what we do at different parent groups or parent education around the city, and people will notice that there may be interaction patterns that they're interested in shifting. So, for example, if the child is more passive or lower alert level, if you will, and the adult is the same way, then it can be hard to really get a consistent flow of interaction that feels good for both the child and the parent. So they may just notice something really subtle like that and be interested in coming. A lot of pediatricians may refer for developmental milestones being behind or delayed, if you will, quote. So that's a common referral source. And then school. So a lot of times when kids start preschool or start to get in those busier social environments, that's when a lot of the things come up, such as hitting or biting or kicking or not being interested in playing with other kids. That's a big kind of red flag that we notice, or not being excited about things that other kids may be excited about, like going to a birthday party can feel like a big event and it doesn't feel exciting for the child. So those are the main reasons that my specific setting of OT would work with, because we are kind of more specialized in that social emotional realm and how that all of that drives learning and higher level cognition.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. And your page, I love it because it's full of so many different quotes and just things to look at, even just like tips and information, which is awesome. All right, guys, I want to talk to you about trustandwill.com. It is estate planning simplified. It's 10 minutes to finish online starting at $39, offering guardianships, wills, and trusts in all 50 states. And Vito and I have been putting it off for a while. We're always like, oh, we should make a will. But we're kind of dreading it because it's like you don't really know where to go, how to start, and we knew that it was probably going to cost a lot of money or, have to consult some lawyers. And I don't know, it just seems like there wasn't tons of good information out there for us to learn how to just do it super easy. And that's why I'm so glad that I came across Trust and Will, because it literally took us 10 minutes. It guided us through all of the questions and we put the information in there over everything. And it asks you even in event if it's just you or just your spouse or neither. And it really does ask you everything that you need and makes it so easy to get it done online. And then all you have to do is sign it. And I was so glad that we found it because, like I said, we had been looking for that. And right now we do have an offer for you guys. If this is something that you're looking to do, I would definitely recommend doing it with Trust and Will. You can take 10% off by going to trustandwill.com/mamas or entering the promo code mamas at trustandwill.com. That's 10% off by going to trustandwill.com/mamas or entering promo code mamas at trustandwill.com. So you had mentioned milestones, and I'd love to get into that a little bit because one thing that a lot of people were wanting to know is, I guess, so moms kind of go through this milestone marker, right? And almost comparison with other people. And so when they hear somebody else's child at their age is walking, they're like, okay, why isn't mine? And they start kind of freaking out a little bit. And so a lot of moms are wondering why their kids aren't walking at a certain age. And maybe, is it due to something or is it just that they're developing at their own rate?
Yeah, it's such a common concern. And I think there is just in our society these days, there's so much comparison and social media. People are posting different things that their kids are doing or excited about. And it does create some fear or concern about, is my child doing the right thing at the right time? Or is there anything off that I'm missing? So as an occupational therapist, I think we are pretty closely looking at these milestones as indicators of, how the child may be coming along. However, there's a lot of nuance within that. And as a therapist, I think for me, it's more exciting to see a child that is really developed with transitional movements, meaning instead of looking at, is the child sitting and then check that box, I'm looking at, is the child confident getting into sitting and all of those positions that come before then. So Emmy Pickler is somebody that developed kind of a developmental movement sequence that's ideal for many infants. And the idea behind it is that at every stage of the transitional movement, so the infant going into side lying or popping up on their forearms or kind of all of those movement sequences leading up to sitting should be really easy for them, and they should develop a sense of mastery before they move on to sitting. So really looking at, is the child genuinely interested in wanting to move that way, first of all? So that would be the first kind of the thing that I would look at if assessing an infant's motor development. And are they confident and feeling secure each step of the way? So rather than worrying if they're sitting up on time, quote, if you will, after an adult is placing them in sitting and then they're kind of wobbling around and feeling insecure and not really sure where their body is in space because they haven't had all of that opportunity to freely move around the flat surfaces or the floor or work themselves into that position with all of the trying and all of the failure that comes with that, right? So I'm looking at motor development as an emotional process as well. So it isn't just about being in the sitting position. It's about, are they genuinely interested in moving from, point A to point B and all of those spaces in between? Are they feeling really confident and secure each step of the way? Are they getting joy when they can move their body in different ways? Because it should be a really fun experience, and they're developing so much sensory integration and body awareness and things that will benefit them all throughout their lives, versus if we put them in sitting and just focus on the fact that they're sitting up and they've achieved this milestone and nothing else matters. We're missing a lot of that magic and integration and emotional development, and just then they can feel confident interacting in that way or eating. So then their organs are all in the right places, if you will. So their muscles around their organ systems are supportive to their posture, and they can feel confident when they're moving up in the eating progression and interacting. So they might feel confident looking around and moving their head, because postural security really sets the stage for that neck rotation and visual gaze and ocular motor development. So there's so many pieces that we want to feel really, really secure and fun and good for them. And it's really that foundation that will set them up for celebrating, each of those little micro movements along the way will set them up for all of the growth that comes from those postural positions.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know, I guess you address those little things on the way, because when you think about milestones, I think a lot of people do think, oh, my kid's sitting up, oh, they're crawling, oh, they're walking, oh, it's kind of those bigger box checks instead of, oh, look, she's starting to be interested in this or whatever it is, just kind of the progression along the way instead of just, oh, they did it. Have you had a long day at work or a long day of parenting or stuck at school or the office? You can treat yourself to the meal and your family to the meal that they deserve, and have one of your favorite restaurants come to you with DoorDash. DoorDash connects you to your favorite restaurants in your city. Ordering is easy. Open the DoorDash app, choose what you want to eat, and your food will be delivered to you wherever you are. Not only is your favorite pizza joint already on DoorDash, but there are over 340,000 restaurants in 3,300 cities, so you might find a new favorite spot too. With door-to-door delivery in all 50 states and Canada, order from your local to-goes or choose from your favorite national restaurants like Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, the Cheesecake Factory. There's so many options on there. And don't worry about dinner. Let dinner come to you with DoorDash. And right now, our listeners can get $5 off their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter promo code MAMAS. That's $5 off your first order when you download the DoorDash app from the App Store and enter promo code MAMAS. And don't forget, that's promo code MAMAS for $5 off your first order from DoorDash. Another thing that somebody else asked was, is it important to have those little things along the way? Like, is it important for your kid to start crawling before they start walking?
Yes. So I think a common theme that we see, there's lots of different devices that will promote a posture position. So, for example, like a walker. So I think the idea behind a walker is that the child is occupied, they're in a different position. It's a fun space. Absolutely, if you need to, do something and have the child be busy. It's a nice alternative to, having a baby crying and just, upset for a while you need to get things done. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having the devices, but it does limit the opportunities that the child has to really be on the floor on a flat surface and go through this natural developmental progression of crawling before they're walking. So if they get a taste of what it feels like to be standing up and ready to engage, and they're taller and it feels nice to be big, then they're getting this kind of false sense of security, or they could, through that standing position by being in a walker or many devices that may promote certain developmental movement positions. So crawling is, and I try, just as a rule with the devices, I would try to limit it to like 15 minutes a day in those, because of the beautiful opportunities that kids will naturally seek to develop their bodies and their movement positions through just being on a flat surface, being on the floor, and going through this at their own pace. So with crawling, so why is it so important to crawl before walking? It's a loaded question. There's so many as an OT. I'm like, crawling's my favorite thing. You know? So crawling is really developing a lot of things that we will see that will benefit kids well down the road. So the first is when you're crawling, you're really getting a lot of body input. So you are weight bearing through your upper body and your lower body. You are completing what we call reciprocal movement. So back and forth pattern with your arms and your legs, like reciprocal walking, reciprocal going up the stairs. And through that, we're developing specialization of both sides of the body. So you're learning where your midline is, where your center is, where your center of gravity is, and then how to specialize and use each side of your body as a result. So things like riding down the road. I think it's less intuitive to think that an infant's crawling will benefit their handwriting down the road, but it absolutely will, because they're getting to know all of the feedback that's coming into their body. We call it proprioceptive input. There's touch or tactile input. So there's lots of different sensory integration that's happening through that crawling posture, and really all of the steps preceding that as well. So again, it's less about the child getting from point A to point B and more about, is this fun for them? Are they getting joy in the crawling so that their brain is lit up in all of the right ways? And in a way that they can really feel, they're getting all the sensory integration from crawling. So once their brains are lit up and everything is flowing and their kind of neurons are firing, it makes crawling more of a developmentally natural position that they're seeking and doing more and more of. So it's kind of like the more mileage they're getting, the more development they're getting. So in that crawling position, if we miss that or skip it, it absolutely doesn't mean that, the child won't be okay or there's going to be vulnerabilities down the road. I think it's just a signal that is really positive to see in many ways. So kids are so different, and I think there's no black and white with any of this stuff. So if we think about it as the process versus the end goal, and think about the process leading up to crawling and what that was like versus, the child's crawling and check that box and let's move on to walking now. So really spending time and sharing the moments in between with them and building interaction around each one of those postures in a fun way is really setting them up for success.
Yeah. What do you say though to moms who, because of that comparison, there is just this huge emphasis on the milestones, just the moms that may be coming in and being like, oh, well, my neighbor's daughter's walking and they're the same age and my kid's not, how do you kind of maybe put people at ease knowing that maybe there is a developmental progression, but it's not the exact same month for every child?
Yeah, so kids are so different. So every nervous system is unique as a fingerprint. So every child will develop at their own pace, and I think there's so many strengths. Like often we will see kids with different language strengths that may not be as strong as motor as another child, or vice versa. So really looking at the child as an individual and their stage of development. And we are all in the stage of development, so I think it never really ends. So we all have kind of strengths and areas that are more vulnerable that we could work on. But I think my general rule of thumb is if there's a consistent concern. So the one thing I would think about is, trusting that the process, trusting that they'll figure it out. And then the disclaimer would be that if you have kind of general consistent concerns and you feel like your gut instinct is saying that you would need additional support, this is by no means medical advice. So seek support and seek an evaluation if you are consistently concerned about it. However, overall, I would say that kids tend to work things out and develop in the timeline that they will maximize their development. So,
yeah, I think that's really good advice, because that is something that you see so much, I guess, in the mom world. And I don't think that it's intentional either. It's like, oh yeah, my kid's doing this. Is your kid? I don't think that it's intentionally trying to like shame another mom or anything. It just, when your motherhood is such a hard job, and it's hard not to take things personally, when you're the one who created that kid and you're trying to do the best that you can, but knowing that your kid's developing, like they're going to be okay. And if you do have that instinct, definitely do seek further help.
And also looking at why they may not be, seeking those positions. So when I'm looking at the child's profile, individual kind of preferences and capabilities and capacities in that moment, I'm thinking about, why might this child not be achieving or seeking this natural developmental progression? So, for example, if a baby is more passive and is, the parent might say they're never crying and they're such a good baby and they're so easy, I would think of that as a red flag, actually, because we want the babies to be expressing wants and needs in some way, and we want them to be really openly exploring their environment. So, is it that they're overwhelmed by the visual information in the room and that lights or brightness is too much for them? Or do they need more interactive support? So do they need us to be really big in personality or expressive or engaging with lots of affect to motivate their sense of wanting to move or wanting to engage? So there's lots of different things that we think about, whether it's the different sensory systems or, are they really tuned into sounds? So we can use sounds as a way to help them be motivated to move. And maybe they aren't getting enough to meet their threshold that they need to be interested in that. So there's lots of different things that we can look at as far as getting to the root of why they may not be, on the progression if they seem to be off that trajectory. That would be things that I would look at and think about the why and how we can support that in a fun, interactive way versus focusing on what they can't do.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to talk to you about America's #1 meal kit that is easy to use and is delivered right to your door. They have amazing seasonal recipes and pre-measured ingredients, and that is HelloFresh. It is simple. It is home-cooked meals made simple. They make cooking delicious meals at home a reality, regardless of your comfort in the kitchen, because they have an easy step-to-step recipes that are pre-measured with their ingredients, and you'll have everything you need to get a wow-worthy dinner on the table in just about 30 minutes. So say goodbye to endless grocery store trips and takeout food. HelloFresh has you covered. Make deliciousness part of your every week. Break out of your dinner rut with HelloFresh's 20 plus seasonal chef curated recipes each week. And there's something for everyone, from family recipes to calorie smart and vegetarian, and a fun menu series like Hall of Fame and craft burgers. And HelloFresh is flexible and fits your lifestyle. You can add extra meals to your weekly order, as well as yummy add-ons like garlic bread and cookie dough. And you can easily change your delivery days, food preferences, or skip a week whenever you need. I love HelloFresh because they have helped me get out of my dinner rut. I will find a few recipes that Vito and I both love, and then I end up cooking the same ones all the time, week after week. And HelloFresh always sends me something new and creative with everything right there that I need. And I get to add that to my recipe book and get to try something new. And I like to try something new every single week because, like I said, I just get in that rut and it's like, oh, we're having the exact same thing again. But HelloFresh is just such an awesome company and so flexible, and they always give me exactly what I want. I put in my meal preferences, my food allergies, and they are so easy. They easily cater to my needs. So they're just flexible, delicious, and so simple. And for $80 off your first month of HelloFresh, go to HelloFresh.com/mamas80 and enter mamas80. That's $80 off your first month of HelloFresh at HelloFresh.com/mamas80 and enter the code mamas80. Speaking of, I guess, having the sensory information come on, what would your advice be to parents who their kids maybe do have some sensory issues and they deal with sensory meltdowns? What is the best way that parents can help the child kind of cope through them?
Great question. And I think just meltdowns in general are one of the most common things that I get asked about and work with. So the first thing I would say is you are not alone, because meltdowns are really amazing opportunities, actually. If you can reframe it that way, when we're not as stressed, it's easier to reframe. So starting in a place when we're outside the meltdown might be a good chance to do that. But first thinking about, so meltdowns are kind of a natural either release of emotion that's built up, or they're communicating something typically. So if we can think about it as those two purposes versus think about it as this thing we need to extinguish or remove from our lives, that is a often helpful way to go about it. So I think in our society, that quote negative emotion, so sadness or anger or fear or frustration, those are seen as less kind of coveted emotions, definitely. Mm-hmm. So when we see a child going through these emotions, it can trigger stuff in us that brings up judgments and insecurities about the way that things should be and lots of expectations about that. So I think first looking at ourselves and our judgments and expectations related to that, and what kids may be capable of moment to moment, because they're really developing this muscle and building this muscle of regulation. So what we call regulation is calm, organization, ability to be in space and take in all of the environmental stimuli and things around them. So if a child isn't learning that through us or has vulnerabilities in doing so and self-regulating, then it's telling me that they really need likely more adult support or more environmental modifications, more specific types of activities in their day that would be beneficial to their body and mind and their regulatory capacity. So I think talking about meltdowns for any child, we want to first think about how are we supporting them through our interaction throughout the day. So one, really sharing emotion no matter what it is. So first focusing on joy, love, interest, really sharing those with an adult is actually helping to build their regulation and attention for these moments that are tougher. So it's almost like we're building a rep or building a muscle every time you're sharing attention, having a joyful experience with the child. And I think this is something that's a really important precursor to talking about meltdowns in general, because I think when we're stressed, we want tools for those big moments, absolutely, because it's important for everybody to feel safe. And the joy often is harder to come by, because if everyone's stressed and the child's really vulnerable with this area, then we're kind of walking on eggshells around the child, because that just doing something little could trigger a meltdown. And I think it almost triggers fear or discomfort in us as adults, because it does take time and you never know how long it will last, or there's fear about, being in public places. I hear that a lot. So there's so many concerns and emotions that can be triggered by this and meltdowns in general. So first is looking at what type of interaction is soothing through them all throughout the day. So what type of kind of tone of voice is beneficial for them to be tuned in and most engaged, both in moments of joy or contentedness out of the moment and throughout the meltdown. So in the meltdown, first I would think about if they're at a state where they're not processing language, I would think about sensory strategies to soothe them. So for, anywhere from infancy all up to older kids, we all might need sensory strategies to soothe. If we're in a state of the brain where we're not processing language, we're having more of a fight, flight, freeze response. So it's like we're so upset that if somebody says something to you, it's not helpful. Mm-hmm. I think we can all relate to that. Mm-hmm. And it's especially helpful for kids, for us to know where they are in their processing in the moment. So kind of assessing each child individually at the beginning of a meltdown and knowing what type of interaction might help them in the moment. So sensory strategies to soothe might be rocking, holding, using just, or using our sound, using our tone of voice, using visual gaze or not. Is that something that helps them in the moment? Is that something that triggers them further? Kind of really feeling out the child and trying lots of different things and constantly adapting our interaction if it isn't working, as well as giving enough time or space with certain interaction that we choose so that they can know it's coming and feel it's familiar and predictable. So setting up some predictability, familiarity through our interaction so they know that if they get upset in this way, mom or dad will do X, Y, Z. Or if this happens, our interaction style looks like this. So setting up this safety and consistency through our interaction is really big for guiding kids through those meltdowns. So that would be the first goal, is always safety, security, and then sensory strategies to soothe if the child's needing them in the moment. The next step would be relating in a way that is, again, safe, helps them feel seen, soothed, secure, and ultimately organized. So again, looking at our tone of voice, our prosody, our rhythm of voice, our body position. So typically this means reducing our body position to their eye level or lower so that we are less of a perceived threat. Because if we're standing over kids and we're really up tall and our body position is much bigger, even though it's totally unintentional, we can trigger a sense of fear in the child because primitively we're used to seeing big figures and it's this big scary person or being in front of us, and it can trigger fear. So it can exacerbate those meltdowns. So looking at our body positioning and how kind of truly empathetic or authentic we are in the moment, and not just using these as like tools to check off a list and have them be done would be the next thing. And the next step would be when they're more at the reason level. So you see that they're calming down, it feels connected, they are sharing eye contact with you or moving in or, wanting a hug or wanting closeness. Then I would think about saying, I wonder what would help you right now. I wonder if it would help if we, something I say a lot is, if they're upset about leaving the park, for example, maybe it would help if I gave you a piggyback ride to the car. Or I wonder if it would help if we did that really special game when we get home, if we played something you like. Or something that would trigger them into thinking, there is something after this meltdown, because kids often have difficulty visualizing that sequence of something else happening rather than what they wanted, their preferred task, or what they envisioned in their mind. So it's helping them to develop and focus on that positive re-engagement to interaction and the world in a way that's interactive and builds their ability to problem solve and adapt when things are tough or difficult.
Yeah, there's so much good information in there. And I love, though, that you just said, if your kid has a meltdown, you're not alone. Because there's a meme out there that I love that's awesome. And it's when you see somebody's kid having a meltdown in their store and you're like, oh, that'll never be my kid. And then you have kids. And you're like, oh, yep, that's me. Every kid is going to have a meltdown at some point, for sure.
Yes, I still have meltdowns sometimes.
Same. If I'm hangry, it's the worst, though.
We're all learning, right?
Yes. I have a quick question about attachment. So this one lady, she has twin girls, 12 months old, and the one baby is so attached. If she steps away, she crawls and cries after her. And you see that with a lot of moms who kind of feel like they can't go do anything because their kid is just attached at their hip. Do you, I guess, work with that at all?
Yes, absolutely. So and Dan Siegel is a great resource for this too. So thinking about helping a child feel seen, safe, soothed, secure is really setting a foundation for secure attachment. So when I'm thinking about kids that have difficulty with separation, it's one, understanding that especially at that age, it's really developmentally appropriate to have difficulty with separating from a caregiver. And we can think about the child as an individual and reframe it as maybe they do have more needs. However, this is a state where they're beginning to take on more and more of their regulation. So we don't want it to be totally on the caregiver to be regulating them 100% through their body or through feeding or something like that. So we want to help the child develop other tools that will help them take on some of that regulation. So things like, one, for this age, I would look at the child. And again, these are really general recommendations, which if I knew the child, I would individualize and really think carefully about that. So take these with a grain of salt because kids are, again, so different. So every recommendation is really individual with the kids that I hear about and talk more deeply about with parents in virtual consults. So if the child may be into books or reading or visuals are a really big way to help give kids clarity. So when we're thinking about helping them feel safe and secure, again, that predictability, familiarity, clarity is really powerful and goes a long way. So maybe for this child, it is drawing a picture of where mommy will be and where she will be, the 12-month-old, and what they'll be doing as, okay, mommy's going to the store and then she'll be back. So you could draw mommy going to the store, the little girl playing, and then them coming together at the end. So really simple, only pictures, no words, stick figures, really basic. I draw pictures all day long with kids because it's so regulating and organizing, and it's a good way to connect around these emotions. So if she's crying, I might draw her sad and be like, oh, you're so sad. You're sad. You're worried where mommy's going. You want to be with me. I'm throwing in emotional language. So I want to be with you too. We had so much fun playing. And again, this could be way too much language for this specific child. So really basing that on what the child's processing capacities are and how to make things easy for them. So if it's not drawing a picture, maybe it's telling a story and being really clear about it. So one thing I see parents doing a lot is, kind of avoiding their quote negative emotion. I say that just for ease of understanding because I think all emotions are positive and really helpful and healthy and integrating to the mind and body and nervous system. But often we see that if parents are sneaking out or wanting to avoid their child's discomfort, it's totally unintentionally missing this opportunity for the child to regulate and to practice. And it may be totally, again, unintentionally indicating to that child that emotions aren't safe, so we should avoid them. So that's not at all what the intent is. So I want to validate that. But it can miss a big opportunity rather than setting up the child for success and being okay and accepting whatever the emotion is. So recognizing that their caregiver is their object, is their world in that moment, so their world's leaving them. So that makes sense that they would be upset about it and have some feelings about it. So crying may be really healing for them and it may just need to happen. So kind of recognizing that we can accept whatever emotion is that comes out, set them up for success, draw a picture, have some emotional connected time before the fact, let them know that they will have emotional connected time after the fact, and set up maybe there's a lovey or an object that's helpful for them to transition and help to transfer some of that regulation that the parent typically provides to this love object that they have. So that's kind of the basis of loveys or transitional objects, is helping the child to take on some of that regulation. Maybe it's something that they're doing with oral. There's something that they're sucking on that's soothing to them. Maybe there is maybe rocking, so that whatever caregiver will be with them is looking at their sensory profile and thinking, okay, do they need rocking right now? Do they need firm pressure? Do they need movement? And then re-engaging them in something positive. So once they experience the emotion, kind of letting them go through it a little bit. And then once you feel like it's the right time, re-engaging them in play, getting into the positive interaction, letting them know that, yep, this is life, this is humanity, welcome. You have some tough stuff out of you, but it doesn't mean that we'll stay in it forever. We can get through this together, and you can re-engage in something positive and continue on with life.
I love a quote that you reposted the other day, and it says, when you teach a child something, you take away forever his chance of discovering it for himself. Mm-hmm. I think that's so powerful because as a parent, I know, like even for me babysitting, if they're struggling doing something, you just want to be like, here, and do it for them mm-hmm. instead of kind of giving them that opportunity to start to learn.
Absolutely. And it's, again, another opportunity for them to practice regulation again and again. So rather than jumping in and kind of fixing the issue or doing something for them, letting them hang out in that frustration a little bit with our guidance and gradually decreasing that as we go is really helping them to develop that robust understanding of mind and body and emotions, and that they will have these different sensations or different emotions that come up, but it's okay. We're here to help. And it's really good for them to practice both the joyful opportunities that they'll discover and working through the trial and error of getting there, because that's so life, as we know.
Mm-hmm. One last question for you. What is your favorite part of being an occupational therapist?
Such a good question. I think helping families to recognize how much power each individual child has, and really seeing them as an individual that we can celebrate and look at all the things that they can do and how to maximize those strengths and be a more helpful match for them. So helping parents to understand what their kids need and what really benefits them, and ultimately the whole family system. That's my favorite part about it, is kind of bringing back the joy into all of this, focus on milestones or what people can't do or what we should be doing. So focusing on the why and why we're here and what matters.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Where can people find you and follow you at?
So my website is www.thrivinglittles.com, and I'm most frequently on Instagram at thrivinglittles, and my email is hello@thrivinglittles.com, so you can reach out. I offer virtual consults to talk about all of these things and topics, and I have a blog and getting started a YouTube channel. It's still in construction, but those are the best places to find me.
Yeah,
Love
awesome.
to hear from you.
Thank you so much for coming on and answering the questions. You dove into them so deeply. A lot of times it's like, oh, here's a quick tip, but it's like we went really deep into these questions. So thank you so much for the free therapy today.
We did, absolutely. Hopefully it's not too much to swallow.
No, thank you so much, Katie.
Thanks a lot, Liz.
Wow, she is so awesome at her job and inspirational. As usual, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do that with my life now. I love Katie. The work that she's doing is super important. And I love that she just really took the time to dive into the things that you guys asked. I would love to have her back on so we could get a few more questions in there as well. But she's just awesome. I will have all of her information up on the page so you guys can check her out. And as usual, follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and thank you so, so much for being a part of our Miraculous Mamas community. We love you guys. I value you so much, your feedback, your support. So do not hesitate to reach out to me with any questions, concerns, comments, people you want to hear from, topics you want us to talk about, and we will try to get that done for you. So I love you guys, and I will talk to you next week. Bye. This podcast is brought to you by Wave Podcast Network. Check out all of our shows, including the Brain Candy Podcast, I Don't Get It, Coffee Convos, and Let's Talk About It.